Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, Paul Hall, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Evening.
Evening.
Hello.
Good morning.
Have we got an Aussie or a New Zealander in? Someone said evening.
Yes, you do.
Which one?
Globus.
No, I mean New Zealander or Australian?
Australia.
Australia, woohoo! Well, hey, shout out to all the people in
Woohoo.
Oz. What time is it there where you are?
It's 11 p.m.
11 p.m, not a bad time to be on. Not a terrible time. I think that's
Not
probably
at all.
why I picked it up after weighing up all the different time slots. 2 p.m. UK seemed like a reasonable time. You might catch some early people in the States. You might catch some late people in Oz. Happy days. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere edge horizon tangent point, formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from Green River Golf Club.
Not from
No.
Gold Coast, Australia.
Not without
Orange
geometrical
County hasn't seen
considerations.
shit.
Go on, Ryan.
Said Orange County hasn't seen shit.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
No. Now the stars are apparently rotating around the observer, technically. And one could mistake that for some kind of literal physical motion. But yeah, that's a mind experiment. That's a thought experiment.
Well, according to the ballers, all they have is a so-called pendulum and weight change, right? That's all they got. And aren't those both dependent upon location? So really, you could say the location's causing those things and not the spin. The only things they have.
No. The location is not a viable phenomena either.
No, the location's not the cause. The cause is Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, according to their claim.
I know, but I can take my weight and move it to a different latitude and the weight changes. Or I can move this pendulum to different latitudes and it changes its orientation or its precession. So that's proof of Earth spin. Come on.
No, it's not. That's,
Don't you know?
You're claiming Eötvös effect, right? So Eötvös effect is a formal logical
That's
fallacy.
nice.
Right, so this isn't scientific evidence. This is affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If Earth a sphere, I will observe different weights at different latitude lines. Let's just break down the if P statement, right? What are latitude lines?
An arbitrary thing that we just did on the ground that aren't real, kind of thing.
Yeah, but what do they refer to specifically?
Well, also I think they were derived from the sky, though, weren't they? The way the stars and the things rotate originally. Isn't that where it started?
Well, what are they referencing on the ground? Your position on a...
Well, on a globe, yeah.
So you're begging the
Yeah,
question.
exactly.
So what you're saying is, if my position on a presupposed sphere Earth, then weight change with the whatever it is you're weighing, and I observe weight change, not that you're necessarily going to show this, they give you a mathematical graph to justify it, but they assert it, therefore Earth my presupposed sphere with latitude lines. So it's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy, and it's not scientific in any way, shape or form. It's purely mathematical in terms of the evidence that they will give you should you challenge them. Anything else?
Okay, ballers. I was just trying to help the ballers out. I thought that might have them come in and try to defend those positions, but I don't think it's going to work.
Just check it out when, I think if it's labelled as such, but the server owner actually got into a debate many years ago with GeoStreber, and the EPFOS came up. The EPFOS effect came up. And Betty von Velsen absolutely pummeled him. It was great. Check it out. Betty van Velsen versus GeoStreber. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, not for the distance.
No, I don't think it is an object to have a specific distance to.
According to the
apparent
ballers,
distances.
according to the ballers, you could actually take a coin and use a coin and look at the sun and figure out the angles, and because you can do the same thing as with an eclipse and determine the distance to the sun, according to the ballers yesterday. Now, I don't know all the math and the angles and the geometry involved with that, but that was their claim yesterday. Using just a coin can do it.
Would they need
A
R
coin,
for
we
that?
say.
Would they need the R value for that?
And they need the sun to be a physical object in a
Is-
specific location that shines light all the way towards them.
Well, according to them, you don't need the R value to do this.
Oh, yeah.
But according to them, and then they said that you can actually determine the distance to the moon with two people that are just a mile away, that you can determine the distance to the moon. So
Did they actually show you the mathematics?
According to
Hold
them,
on. Did they show you the maths for that? They say you don't need R for that, right? Did they show you the maths?
No,
that's gonna
I
be
was
my
driving.
question. According
was
to them,
driving,
when do they not have an R in their arguments?
Never. Let me just clarify. Good question. Never. Shout out to Validation Boy. Every single claim to be proof of a sphere Earth will start with the assumption that you are on a sphere Earth.
Right. And if I may clarify that for a moment, supposedly triangulating distances of celestial objects, right? Well, that only works if you have, within the mathematical framework, a presuppositional basis from which to engage, which would be the orientation of the Earth in relation to the celestial bodies. So if that orientation is a very well-known spherical size, then yes, they can absolutely presuppose, triangulate the distances based on that specific R assumption. But they could also just use a flat plane, and then you can derive different distances from that base presuppositional approach. And then you get the disk model type claims about the specific locations of the light.
And when they do that with disk model, do they know the actual size of the sun when they do that measurement?
Nope.
So they only know the not actual size, the angular size.
Right.
What
They
use is that?
triangulate it.
What use is that, though? If you don't know the actual size or the actual distance.
Well, it makes it a lot easier to presuppose.
Oh, right. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Yeah, disk Earthers who assume that the Earth is a flat disk with a sun and moon moving around at, what do they say, 3,000 to 6,000 K? Is that what they say for the sun?
Right. Well, that is if they are asked for a specific distance. Although I think that many diskers by now are definitely catching on that. Yeah, even through the Bible, luminaries, lights. So maybe the physicality assumption bias is kind of slowly lifting.
Perfect.
Now.
That's the words I was hoping you would get to eventually. Physical assumption bias, assuming that it is a physical object with an actual size to be measured. Well, until you can confirm what it actually is, making that assumption that your assumptions in terms of the angular size, not actual size of the sun, when you plug in the rest of your maths, assumes that you've got a physical item that will give you an actual size were you to run a tape measure over it. Shout out to Julio Pabon, who's joined as a Penguin channel member. I'll do a quick plug to the channel memberships. If you want to watch the uncut and after show immediately after it's been recorded, I publish it on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel to all channel members as soon as it's been recorded and rendered. So it's maybe an hour after we finish, to be perfectly honest. But nevertheless, it's about 36 hours later if you want to watch it on the second channel, or at the weekend even longer. So if you want to watch things that have been recorded there and then, become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, as Julio Pabon has just done. Thank you very much for joining.
Hey, Nathan,
But
since
here-
they...
Go
Go
ahead. Go ahead, 10th man. I heard you first.
Yeah, so since they presuppose, let me see if I get that right. Every claim for a sphere Earth will start that you live on a globe. So since they presuppose that, and we bring up the black swan, then the R needs to be where it should be at 1.22 miles at a 1 foot observer height.
Perfect lead for me to give that housekeeping question. Any evidence that we actually have that R value that you're about to detail how we don't?
That's what we're waiting for, right? But it's a presupposition that you live on a globe.
Black Swan.
And I heard my favorite Black Swan backup vocals there from Chocolate Saint. So if we're on the globe, it needs to be there. It's not there, so they won't give up the presupposition, but we can prove it's not there.
We break the presupposition. So, 2 years ago, or however long, maybe 3 years ago, when it seemed a revelation to point out the fact that they're presupposing the Earth is a sphere with every argument they ever put forward, but they just, even though that's a logical fallacy, the Globers just said, well, yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. We are on a sphere. In other words, just demonstrated their zealotry in defence and then stood by it as though that was perfectly acceptable. Now, we have had to go further into debunking a logical fallacy. Now, what that means is that the logical fallacy itself, the assumption of the R value, where they can correlate or could correlate it with their presupposition up until 1st of January 2020, they now can't. Their assumption with the R value requires physicality, the same physicality they used to claim block boats and buildings. Well, that physicality is a physical sphere-edge horizon, debunked by the black swan. It's no longer a physical geometric sphere-edge for a horizon by their own admission. So it's the end of the model. The R value as an entity to assume is now untenable. Shouldn't need that. We shouldn't have to go to that extent. It's not required. To just point out that they have no evidence, but they're presupposing their outcome, in any other debate would be perfectly acceptable to void their claim. It's a logical fallacy. Now for us here, deep-seated zealotry that we have on the other side of the argument, we have to go to much greater extents. Their standard of evidence is pathetic. They can use one-word challenges. Gravity, refraction. You don't understand. Not really one word. Anyway, our standard is debunk their presupposition from within their presupposition and their own mathematics. That's what we've had to do to debunk the level of zealotry that we have offered here from their side, in terms of they're just assuming that they're right.
P waves and S waves.
Yeah, similar thing. They don't actually present cogent arguments. Just parrot off some nonsense that somebody else has given a vague idea about. And they think that's an argument. For us, whilst being constantly interrupted and told that we're idiots, we have to unpick their very complex lie from within the lie. Now, up until 2020, that was not really that feasible. It wasn't tolerated by their side for you to try picking apart their argument. In other words, you ended up with constant interruptions and the point not being concisely delivered to an audience. Now that we've got the black swan argument, you can concisely deliver that argument to the audience. It has been concisely delivered to an audience, and 8 months down the road, it's starting to sink into our opponents that their model's now untenable. They don't have this edge, as you see on screen, in side view. This would be comparable in their mathematics to their assumption that they have a physical sphere underneath your feet, and that part of that sphere, the edge, is blocking this boat. Well, that's the assumption, that you've got a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon blocking boats and buildings. That's what they claim proves the Earth's a sphere. Well, that requires having a geometric physical sphere edge to give them the R value, to correlate their maths inside profile that doesn't give you perspective, with the horizon, which in reality is not physical. It's not a sphere edge. By their own admission, by their own rebuttal, which it isn't, they deny their own physical sphere edge, which they need to claim the Earth's a sphere. It's end of model. It's untenable now.
Mm-hmm.
Any evidence of a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
No, they're just moving forward to new claims about the moon, remember? They're gonna derive or basically conjure up new stories based on the old unproven molten iron core stories on what other bodies out there presumed to be objects are now supposedly like on the inside, even though they can't actually check it.
One thing I brought up to the balders yesterday when it was actually Zanuck, obviously, that was talking about you can do a 1 foot distance between the observers and determine the distance to the moon. I was like, well, if your angles, you can measure angles that well from that short a distance, then you should be able to go to the edge of the moon, each side, and then measure the center, and actually be able to determine, just from a measurement standpoint, whether the moon is a sphere or not. Technically, because if you can do that level of accuracy from 1 mile with angles, then that should be feasible to do from ground-based observation or ground-based measurement. They said, "Oh yeah, that should happen." I was like, "Was anybody ever done that?" Of course, no, nobody's ever done that. Never.
But you can in the future, right? You can go forth and do that to prove it to yourself.
Heck, they've been shooting lasers at it.
Well, that was his strongest argument for the distance to the moon, is the radar and laser bouncing off of it is determining the distance. And I couldn't remember the rebuttal that Anthony gave for that. Does anybody remember the rebuttal for that? I can't remember. Can somebody help me out with that?
Certainly.
But the laser.
In terms of the lasers and the reflectors that are claimed to be left on there, there's 2 things. Number one, they claim to do that before they claim to send men to it. Secondly, they claim to send men to put these reflectors on through a second law of thermodynamics violation. They did not send men through an area that doesn't exist. There is no sky vacuum. It's not real. It's fake. You can't have a sky vacuum. You wouldn't have any gas. So them claiming to send men through a sky vacuum to leave things on a light in the sky called the moon is preposterous and untrue, and has been debunked by natural law. Second law of thermodynamics disproves. Who's got their mic wide open? Second law of thermodynamics disproves the notion of a sky vacuum. Therefore, they did not leave reflectors on the moon. In terms of the Jodrell Bank measurement, that's not of the moon. That's claimed to be bouncing off Venus. Well, they've got a presupposed sphere Earth with a presupposed distance to Venus based on Venus being the same size as Earth in terms of its presupposed R value. Now, when they've got the mathematics for the distances based on all of those presuppositions, they can claim that a radar bounce will come in a certain time frame. So, because we presuppose Earth is a sphere and Venus is the same size, we anticipate our radar return signal will be in this amount of time. So that's where they're looking in the return signal for their confirmation bias, essentially. Well, we expect it to be this amount of time, so that's where we'll look. Now, the fact that they didn't find anything, and then a guy called Bob from JPL comes along and says, I think I can see it in the exact time frame we presuppose when we've got an R-value-based Earth and an R-value-based Venus. And there it is, look, I see it. Nobody else agrees with him, but they apparently get convinced by this guy called Bob from JPL. And then that's it, it's all been confirmed, because they apparently see a return signal in the time frame they were expecting. But the time frame that they're looking, this isn't necessarily Anthony Riley's main focus, but it is mine. The time frame is all based on the assumptions that they've got to begin with. So it's not like they're looking and seeing if it comes back in half a second. They're just deciding based on the time frame that they will get from an R-based assumption when it will come back, and looking for it in that time frame. It's just confirmation, not confirmation bias. It's just confirmation bias. That's the right term. That is the right term. Any more, Paul?
Sorry, I stepped away from the mute button. No, I think you answered it. So it's really, even if they shoot it at the moon, if you assume its assumption or assume the distance, then you're looking for that ping data in that range. That's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they've got the distances presupposed. So in terms of the return signal, they're looking for it within a presupposed time frame, which they've already determined based on the presupposition that the radius of Venus is a rock in the sky. It's not a little light. It's the same size as Earth. It has a physicality. It's in a presupposed orbit. All of the presuppositions that they apply give them the time frame to look for the return signal.
And what did they say they got back? Like 1 photon or something?
Just a load of mess. So
That's the type of...
that's what, like I say, the people who are looking at it at Jodrell Bank don't think they see anything. They don't think they can see a return signal in the mess. But Bob does, from JPL. And in the literature that Anthony often reads out, it's like Bob convinced us that he could see it. Have we done molten iron core? I think we have, haven't we? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No. None.
Someone in the chat earlier asked me, what's the difference between everything going down and gravity? Everything doesn't go down. You can debunk that assertion with a helium balloon. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Just calculations. They live in the world of math and calculations, not in reality.
Any evidence that you can
But
have?
what-
Go on, Paul.
I was going to say, but their argument would be for the balloon would be, well, you got the heavier gas that's kind of going down because of gravity. It's pushing the balloon up. That would be their argument.
Gas doesn't go down. It doesn't have an exclusively downward vector. Gas expands in all directions. So to assert this gas has weight is to assert that gas needs sweeping up. No, it doesn't. It expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill.
Ah, but come on, at some point it must go down, go boom, boom again. Come on.
Well, based on
Show us.
their scenario, we're next to the blackness of outer space with 10 to the minus 17 torr value vacuum, and it wouldn't even have a chance to go down. It would just fill the available space.
Yeah.
How do you get around that?
Yeah, you can't. Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom, with an exclusively downward vector. So, no evidence you can have gas pressure without a container then?
Yep. Try it. See if you can do it.
Let's just ask it. Has anybody got a demonstration of gas pressure without containment?
Well, I was actually thinking about, there's no evidence actually, but I was just thinking about this morning. They always argue like when you put a glass of water in a vacuum chamber and you suck out all the air and the water starts to boil away, that there's other factors that doesn't keep the water in the, sorry about that, my coffee pot's going off. There's other factors. That's why the water does not stay in a cup in the vacuum chamber, right? Well, what are those factors? Well, there's heat, there's kinetic energy within the molecules themselves. There's all kinds of factors. Well, if we're at the strongest point of gravity here on Earth, right? Supposedly, even under Einstein so-called gravity, then the gravity should keep the water in the cup, right? Even in a vacuum chamber. Am I right in that thinking, if gravity is what's holding everything on here?
Yes, on a much, much, much smaller scale, you've got the same thing that they claim. You've got a layer of water, and then you've got gas, tiny, tiny amount in the scheme of space, and then you've got a vacuum. Well, analogous to that, on a smaller scale, is a cup of water in a vacuum, and close to the ground, yeah, the gravity should be capable of keeping that water there. There is no gravity. There's no force of gravity. There is no gravity. So this idea that gravity is somehow giving gas a downward vector, meaning it needs sweeping up at the end, nah, that's nonsense. Number one, we don't have a force of gravity. Number two, gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has. It doesn't have a downward vector. That concludes
Thank
the
you.
housekeeping. Unless there's something else, Paul. Go ahead.
I was just saying thank you for confirming my thought process was correct. That's all.
That's perfect. That concludes housekeeping.
Have you seen the latest from NASA showing 4K pictures from Mars?
They're not showing 4K pictures from Mars because that would be a claim of pictures coming from a second law of thermodynamics sky vacuum, violation of natural law. Definitely not going to have pictures taken from it in the same way as you can't take pictures from Narnia. Lies.
I know, they're just claiming.
That's 4K pictures from Devon Island. Come on now, 10th man.
I understand, yeah.
I don't know where the pictures are actually taken or if they are pictures at all. It's not relevant. Where they claim they are taken from is not a real place.
Pictures
Yeah,
not
that's-
evidence anyway.
One of them I saw the other day looked like some kind of rabbit trail, like animals would be running through it to create a little trail. It was interesting. That sure looks like parts of my property where the coyotes and the rabbits and everybody used to run through the switchbacks of the hillside.
No, that's aliens.
Aryans, rabbits.
I think he said aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah, they can't even show their ISS without wires. So what makes you think they're taking pictures from Mars?
What makes you think Mars is somewhere capable of having pictures taken from it? It's a little light in the sky.
Exactly. Well, they have to keep their pseudo outer space light going, so they got to say it's pictures from Mars.
Yeah, it's not. A little light in our night sky isn't a place capable of being travelled to, especially when they claim the journey would involve travelling through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum that we definitely don't have.
That kills it right there.
Yeah, all assertions. Go on, Paul.
I asked them. I always ask the question: what's your verification? What's your proof that Mars is a rock or something in space? Well, calculations, which basically we can calculate it, and also spectroscopy. We can look at the light and tell you what it is.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Calculate
Right,
that
orange color, and you can make
Venus is a rock.
what kind of dust the Mars surface is averagely of. Apparently, you can do that.
No, they can claim they can do that with something called stellar spectroscopy. Spectroscopy is a standard which is done by a resident expert in this subject, which is Dr. John D. Now, Dr. John D has explained in detail how when you perform spectroscopy, you isolate everything except for what you are testing. It's very controlled. Stellar spectroscopy, on the other hand, they open up the roof, point it out at the sky and everything that's in it, not in the slightest bit controlled. It's an utter sham.
I'm all done. You guys can move on.
We're just waiting for a wrap up.
Well, to even call it stellar spectroscopy is already too many presuppositions for me. Why don't it should be just celestial spectroscopy versus terrestrial spectroscopy?
But it's not spectroscopy. As I just said, if you're doing actual spectroscopy, you isolate everything from what you're studying, and then you study it.
Right, but you can't do that with celestial light, so it has to be specially categorized. It's technically not the same, but it's very similar.
Can't do it.
Well, they think they can, and they do.
Oh, that's nice.
They can't even show us the R at 1.22 miles. The physical edge.
Yeah, but you don't need the R if you can already prove that, there is a floating rock that is obviously a ball out there. Because what else would Earth be then?
That's a presupposition. Hold on. Stop. That's a presupposition. That's orbits. Orbits is a begging the question fallacy. To assume that the lights that we see in the sky are actually falling around us with a spherical or elliptical trajectory is a begging the question fallacy. It's assuming that the twinkling lights are physical bodies falling around us. That's a presupposition. Whenever you hear the word orbit, say it like I say. You're begging the question, because they are.
Yeah, and it's even in the word. They just orbit. You know, they just sphere it. They
Do what I
orbit.
do. What's an orbit?
Yeah, it's saying orb, as in moving around a spherical surface. Yeah, Arwen, correct. That's just begging
They
the
just
question.
sphere it.
Yeah, it's just begging the question. I assume we've got a spherical surface beneath our feet and rocks falling around it. Orbits! That's what it means. When they say that word, just automatically begging the question.
Right. So instead of starting out there, where we know you don't have any possible way of proving it, start here on Earth and show us that physical geometric horizon.
Oh, you mean that one that we can't see?
Yeah. But we see orbits. Why can't we see the geometric horizon
No,
according
we
to
can't
them?
see orbits. Where do you see orbits?
They're telling us. I'm saying that it's just talk from their side. Okay, before we go out there, let's just start here. Let's start on the foundation, the place we live on. Show us that geometric horizon that will validate you saying we live on a sphere before we go to things orbiting us.
Yeah, they can't do that. We've debunked the geometric R value, so they can't presuppose it.
So then forget about orbits.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The maths at the producive challenge would involve an R value. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that black swan kills every single thing with any kind of domino stack up you can do. If you use the black swan properly and you know the Moastolans, then if they want to talk about what's out there, outer space, the dominoes start knocking those things down. If you say, why can't we see it? Well, then it starts knocking those dominoes down. And so it's amazing. All of their arguments are tied to that R.
Funny, I think the Globers who think that we don't see a geometric horizon and think that boats and stuff were being blocked by something physical, maybe they should have like a meeting with Neil deGrasse and Bill Nye and what's the lady, Michelle? Because I just watched that video where they've got the three of them basically attacking flat earthers and saying, these are the proofs of that we live on a ball. And this Michelle Thaler lady, her biggest proof is boats going over the curve. Like this is a lady that works for NASA.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing the first thing that she said, oh, we see boats going over the curve. That can only happen because it's a curve.
Right.
And then she's like, and then the funniest thing is that right after that, she's like, and there are other proofs that are a bit more obscure, but they're very lovely. I just started dying. Like, so you got lovely proofs, and what was it? What was the lovely proof? Oh, lunar eclipses. We see a curved shadow on the moon. Therefore, we know that the Earth is a ball because the Earth is a ball that's making that shadow.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
that's the first assumption, isn't it? That's all the way back to, in their narrative at least, Aristarchus. So that's the first assumption. That's the genesis of the assumption that Earth is a sphere. Look at a light in the sky and go, well, what do you know? That's got a, in quotes, shadow. And what's causing the shadow? Well, it's Earth as a sphere getting in the way between the sun and it. Earth a sphere. That's the genesis of the assumption.
A spinning ball, not just a ball, a spinning one.
And then Bill Nye backed that up by saying the same thing. We obviously, go out to sea. You see boats going over the curve. The whole time I'm sitting there thinking like, that's kind of funny because that's not what we're being told right now. That stuff that you guys, the experts in huge quotes, are saying, that's not what the guys we talked to say. Not anymore, at least. And then you got Neil Smoke deGrasse Tyson, who wants to come in and say, well, I wouldn't debate anyone who doesn't step into a debate with objective truth. I don't debate objective truth. And if my side has the objective truth, I won't debate it. And then I wanted to like scratch my eyes out.
Well, he's chicken. He's a cop out. That's a cop
Yeah, I
out.
know.
He
Right.
likes to drop mics and call it gravity.
Yeah.
It's funny because they traded their
For him, it's
physical
already
curve.
settled.
Yeah, it's settled.
That's the
except
funny thing. For him, it's so maybe him and Vsauce should have a debate because Vsauce doesn't think it says science doesn't prove things, right? So why does one guy know and then the other guy says, well, I don't know that, when the other guy one guy says it's objective truth. And then, just to add on to the nonsense, I guess because we were talking about him, one of Vsauce's videos shows up in my feed. And of course, it's the one that's how does the Earth rotate? And after going at him, like we did the other day, I was like, you know what, let me listen to this. And not once in the entire video does he suggest that maybe the Earth isn't a ball that's spinning around, or maybe that this hasn't been validated scientifically. Nothing like that. The video was very blatant in this is the Earth as a ball, and this is how it moves.
What?
No question. Yeah.
No option
Yeah.
to falsify it?
No
it's-
option.
Wow.
This is the Earth.
Vsauce
The Earth is a ball, and this is how the Earth ball moves.
It's revision.
And he had it down, like he was doing the days, talking about sidereal days, solar days, and he had it down to the decimal point. There was no question. And this video is very old. So I'm just looking at it like, well, that's funny because he put on this video. It says, yeah, I know it's a ball. I know it's a 3D spheroid, but I don't know that science has proven it because science has approved things. Way to go, Mike from Vsauce.
Just adult programming or revision. So where you'd be told the broad strokes of the heliocentric model at a very early age in your education. The revision comes from people like Vsauce. Just in case you forgot how to beg the question, this is how we beg the question of a sphere Earth.
Yeah.
Does this mean
And
they're
it makes
all
it
gonna
really
group
cool
together?
because, he shows up in the video walking up the stairs backwards. So because of his coolness, it makes the video more,
He's doing a moonwalk.
basically up the stairs. That's how he starts the video. I'm just like, this guy's such a clown. Because I've seen other videos where he starts it and he's upside down. It's like, this is like Science Buddies or something. I don't know what the hell this is, man.
Hmm. So you guys think that maybe all these heliocentric champions might at some point come together and form a heliocentrist debate? Try,
They're gonna have
Themselves.
to.
try to reverse world mirror image what we're doing here to give a better
Well, I think they're
suggestion
gonna
that
have
they
to,
actually
because-
know what the fuck they're talking about.
What was the point of them, again, if Flat Earth is so silly and stupid, right? What was the point of them getting their three biggest, or three of their biggest priests, Michelle, Jabba the Hutt, Thaler, and Smoke the Grass Tyson and Bill Nye, the non-science guy? Why does Big Think get all three of them and condense their little videos into one video to shut down Flat Earthers?
Don't forget.
What's the problem?
Don't forget, they got the former president saying and mocking the Flat Earth Society and trying to throw them on us. It's damage control on their side, is the way I see it. When you study our opponent's arguments,
That's how I see it. Yep.
yeah, when you study the opponent's arguments, it's especially now, is they've traded in their physical curve for refraction. Now that's a tell.
And Neil deGrasse gives the biggest tell because the way he puts it is that somebody could get into a debate with him, and even though he has the objective truth, somebody might be able to best him in a debate because they have more charisma, personality, maybe better tactics, and he
How about
feels
just the
like
truth?
he shouldn't even put. No. Wait, let's not talk about truth. Except
Isn't that
him.
interesting?
His side has the objective truth.
It's the total polar opposite of the reality of the situation. So his standpoint is to say, I have the objective truth. I am right whether you like it or not. However, should I enter into a debate with somebody who's in the contrary position to me, they might have more charisma, they might use debating tactics, they might do things that aren't necessarily in relation to the objective truth. Now, in reality, what do we have here? We have us talking about empirical science. And what do we have on the side of the globe? We have them debating about whether or not Soundly is Roger MC, about how well my show is doing. We have a long string of logical fallacies used to assert the Earth is a sphere, of varying different types, all of which will utilise the begging the question fallacy that Neil deGrasse Tyson's using. I'm right anyway. I automatically assume my position is correct. Not because of any scientific validity, but just because I assume it. Now, so the contrary reality is what we actually have. Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't have the objective truth. We, on the flat Earth side, have the objective truth. And what do we face in debate? Debate tactics.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
And Michelle will tell you very easily, well, it's not okay to think the Earth is flat. Every time I hear that, I just kind of spinning roundhouse kicker.
Can
You won't hear
can
Chocolate,
post
but-
that YouTube video in Master B Chocolate? I'd like to see it again.
But Chocolate,
Yeah,
before you, I don't know if it was before you joined, but we were detailing how we don't want to be, or I personally, I don't want to speak for everyone, doesn't necessarily want to approve of people telling other people how they should think. That's not our place. I tell Spurs off for it quite frequently, actually. But that aside, when it comes to the globe side and their priests, they literally tell them how they can think. Gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. You're being granted permission by a priest how to think. And this other, what's her name again?
Michelle
Thaler.
She would assert that you're not tolerated to think about Earth being flat. They tell you how to think on the globe side. They make it plain how you are supposed to think. Me, I don't care how you think. Believe what you like.
Exactly. And that's the line that she says that irks me the most of all of it. What you mean it's not okay? Who are you? who in the exact, not gonna curse, but who are you to tell anybody what to think, what's okay to think or not? I tell people all the time, look, if you want to believe it's a globe, go ahead. That's fine. Just don't assert to me that it's my reality. Right? This lady will sit there talking about boats going over the curve and it's not okay to think that the Earth is flat. She doesn't know where this came from. What? Man.
Yeah. So her justification is to tell you boats go over a physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Now, that's been debunked. It's merely a mathematical reification, which we have demonstrated here. She has reified mathematics of perspective exclusive curves and called them her world, while simultaneously telling you, unless you automatically assume that the horizon, a not actual, not physical location, is a physical sphere edge that can block boats and buildings, even though it's been debunked right here. If you don't do that, then you are guilty of wrongthink. She's essentially the thought police.
Exactly. Thought police is the first thing that popped up every time from the first time I saw that lady speaking. I was like, oh, thanks, lady, that now that I have your permission to think about what I want to think about. I appreciate that.
And what you need to think about, Chocolate, is the horizon being physical and a sphere edge. It's been debunked, but you must think that. Think of the horizon as being physical, even though it isn't. Think of it as a geometric tangent point. They'll call it Earth curve.
What I'm saying, maybe her and Bill Nye should get together with Rumpus and then figure it out. They seem to be on opposite sides of the coin.
They're part of the high priest category. They are immune to this because they will never put themselves in the position to be compromised with a question that will debunk everything they stand for. They're royalty in their world. You know, they come in, know-it-alls. And then, well, I'd never debate a flat earther. What's a waste of time?
Yeah, but that, again, is part of the magic trick. Why would I even stoop so low as to debate these people when I can just as easily tell you how to think and what to presuppose, and then justify it by saying, I'm right whether you like it or not?
Yeah, I have a master class.
Even the name of the video itself, 3 scientists school flat earthers, like, yeah? Where's the science any of these 3 clowns have done? I'd like to see that.
Yeah, but you see, now that name is going to get, who knows what percentage people will never watch the video, but that name will stick in their head. And the next time one of their friends brings up flat earth, that's what that whole naming of that video was about. Now, you against 3 scientists. No, I don't even want to talk about it. How they do it.
I posted it in Master B Town.
Thank you.
Shout out to Tip of the Day. He says, ballers have Stockholm Syndrome. Romanticize the globe. Right. Thanks for the super chat. Tip of the day.
What's great is that anybody on the panel here and on Discord who's been listening to the arguments for any length of time and feels confident with it could take any one of these people on. Anyone.
But it's like one of those things where, like, you almost want to, like we were talking about, just shouting out to people like Eddie Bravo, who've got like a sort of influence, and get him to just start calling these people out. Tell them to come here. You know, you shout out Nathan all the time. Tell these guys, these clowns, Neil deGrasse and Michelle Dollar and Bill Nye, tell them to join the debate. You know? What the hell are we still debating Zanuck and Rumpus for? Nonsense.
Because when you destroy Zanuck and Rumpus, it doesn't destroy their falsehood of this sphere. When you destroy those people, there'll be collateral damage they can't control.
In chess terms, they are pawns.
And that's why the pawn should be called out on a massive scale. And I think Eddie Bravo is one of those people that could start helping doing that. Because even though he might not be the most popular guy in the world, he definitely has a following, and he definitely listens to this. And I think that would be cool, man, if he would kind of jump on that and just start calling these people out.
Shout out to James Richards, who says, if the boat goes over the curve, that curve would be symmetrical in all directions, yet the horizon remains flat. I guess the Earth is a cylinder. No, even if what you're talking about, which is the Earth being something that's like a hill going away from you in the perspective we see in a photograph, if you're taking a picture of the horizon, you're saying, well, the assumption that we've got a physical edge for a horizon would mean that it would bend left to right, and that is the case. It's calculable in their maths. However, you still don't have a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon that's going over in a cylindrical manner, as you correctly identify, because that requires the assumption that it's a physical sphere edge, and that has been debunked, James. But thank you very much indeed for the super chat. I hate to nitpick with your argument, but some of these older 2017, 2018 arguments, while they had a valid justification for being put forward back in the day, this is why the Black Swan's number 1, right? They don't have a physical sphere edge, James. It's game over. They can't assert that it's a physical sphere edge. They're even telling us it's not a sphere edge. We cannot see the geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. That's why it's the end. It's the end. They might phrase it, we don't see the geometric horizon. That's their tangent point. That's their Earth curve. That's what blocks the boats and buildings, according to this NASA woman. That's their proof of Earth being a sphere. Well, it's not physical, it's not geometric, it's not blocking boats and buildings. It can't be both non-physical non-geometric, and the basis of their worldview, with an assertion that it's blocking things with its physicality. It's just the end of their model. Black Swan is awesome.
That's the beautiful thing. That's where you got to make that connection, right? The Globers that come in here are telling us the very thing that we don't see, we've never seen, is the very thing that lady in that video is telling you blocks boats. Do you see how that doesn't work out, guys?
Yeah, it's time to actually, you're right, Chocolate. It's now we're 8 months into the argument, it's time to really boil it down to what this actually has panned out to be. Their assertion is that we don't see a geometric horizon, and the geometric horizon is Earth curve. So their rebuttal to the Black Swan is we don't see Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in maths. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. That's their rebuttal. The model's so dead when they're forced into a position to give us a concession as a rebuttal, because they're never going to concede, but they're forced into a position where their rebuttal is a concession. Earth curve is the geometric horizon, which we're told we can't see. So we don't see Earth curve. Earth curve wouldn't be expected to be seen, and Earth curve only exists in Earth curve mathematics. Earth curve's not real. We don't have Earth curve. Earth isn't curved. Earth's flat.
Yeah, I had a good laugh about that one day, right soon after the Black Swan, and we started getting, we don't see the geometric horizon, it's not there, and all that. I just had to stop and think, like, they're really saying we don't see this thing that they've been fighting for all these years. The very mainstay of their ridiculous narrative. Now they're just saying we don't see it just because we said, hey, guys, why is that horizon that's supposed to be 1.2 miles away? Why is it behind that second platform that's 9 miles away? Why is that? Oh, we don't see the geometric horizon. Oh, that's not good.
There's been so many. The geometric horizon can't be seen. You know, those are the quotes. These are quotes from Globers. Now, once you understand that that tangent point is the very heart of their model, with its R-value association and physicality, then you understand that Earth curve is that physical tangent point. Earth curve is physical geometry. Physical geometry is what they're asserting when they say Earth curve, and they're telling you, you can't see it. It only exists in maths. We wouldn't expect to see it, except when we assert that you are seeing it, it's blocking boats and buildings. Can't be both. It violates the law of non-contradiction. It's the end for the globe. Black Swan. Had to wait 8 months, though, right, to see how the argument would be rebutted in order to reach the point where you can say they're saying you don't see Earth curve. Couldn't have boiled it down that succinctly 8 months ago, right?
No, you would
I don't
never
know.
have.
I think I did, though. I think I was like, wait a minute, aren't they saying that we don't see, what, isn't that the thing they used to call the curve? Because they started
yeah,
saying
you're right,
that
Chocolate.
almost immediately.
You're right. I can even remember the pitch that you said it in, and it's the same as the pitch you've just used. You are right. You did say it pretty much straight away. I'm saying it with a smile because it's taken me this long for it to be succinctly summarised when you've been doing it the whole time. So kudos you.
Yeah, you did call it out pretty early.
So sad.
But I think that at the time when that started to happen, it was really when we started to unravel the Earth curve calculator and what it really was. And then that was, then the Black Swan afterward also. But that's when they started to kind of like mix around the horizons and get really confusing and focusing on terrestrial refraction nonsense.
Exactly, and that was the thing, because they were like, we don't see the geometric horizon, we've never seen it, it's not possible to see it, we have an atmosphere. I'm looking at the Earth curve calculator, and I'm like, there's a section here that says geometric horizon, and it's got a number.
Yeah.
How did you get that number? If you to something you've never seen again? What?
It's just geometrical considerations now.
It's within 5%.
Consideration.
Within 5% chocolate. Another shout out to James Richard. Thank you for double tapping the super chat. Really appreciate your support, James. Forget about God and put your faith in gravity, open brackets, small g. Once all people do this, we would end up with today. P.S. Everybody is Truman. Brian, can you pop yourself on mute? Unless you wanted to add something. 0.725. Not listening, is he?
I don't think so.
Sorry, Brian, you're going to have to go on server mute.
Well, I'm looking up this Michelle Thaler. She's a communications director. She's been in love with space all her life. Talks about wearing an orange jumpsuit to the mall, going to space camps. So
Space camps? Ooh.
yeah. Just her whole life was.
Yeah, there's no such thing as space
camp
camps.
Is real, therefore space is real.
Any assertion that she has been
Space-
camping in the space vacuum is just a lie. There are no space camps. It's just a total lie. It's bullshit. Can't have a camp in a violation of natural law.
Right, but maybe it was a space-themed camp.
That's what it's supposed to be. Space-themed camp, yeah. Let's see. From early as she can remember, Michelle was obsessed with space. Her mom, who raised Michelle and her sister, fascination came when she was about 4 years old.
Very telling right there.
Yeah, 4 years old. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Although money was tight growing up, at 12 years old, Michelle heard about a space camp in Alabama and was desperate to go. She helped pay by way of babysitting, an experience that she jokes turned her off kids. One of the She was also named the best camper at the campus. She got a PhD.
I'll wait for you to get to the sciences.
She got a PhD from Georgia State University in philosophy. Oh, then she got NASA affiliated Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Right, I'm going to cut you off. I've put her on screen so people know who we're referring to. Shout out to Joseph369. He says, the rumpus is right. Earth is level. Okay, I haven't been paying attention for the last couple of minutes to chat, I'm afraid. But thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Joseph. He is indeed right if he has stated that Earth is level. Earth is indeed level. Shout out to James Richard for his hat-trick super chat. Thank you very much indeed. Is space camp an activity here on Earth? How unfortunate for Globies. That is indeed true. Thank you very much, both of you, for the super chat. Also, there was another one. Alexander, thank you very much for the thumbs up. Really do appreciate your support. Now, if you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Stay tuned once again if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.